Like, I don't even think I've even hit even close to my potential yet. So I just think there's so much left in my tank, and that's what excites me.
Sophie Cunningham simply spoke up, and her remarks against Caitlin Clark have everyone is conversing.
Drafted, and when I got drafted, they're like, oh, what was like your signing bonus? And I'm like, signing bonus? I was like, we got a hat and a t-shirt that said WNBA draft. I'm like, oh, we got 10 million. I was like, well, welcome to the women's side.
Of the Indiana Fever are already a sports team, creating a stir, and Sophie Cunningham's recent remarks have only served to playing behind legends in the fire. Phoenix will collaborate with one of the WNBA's most talked about rookies. Sophie's transition throughout history has been, it was quite spectacular, but what did? In fact, she mentions Caitlin Clark, and why is this recent video becoming viral? Okay, let's discuss and get started regarding a topic that has been generating a lot of buzz in the Sophie Cunningham WNBA world. Among the hardest-hitting, no-nonsense players in the league recently made some audacious remarks about the internet, and Caitlin Clark is consuming it if you haven't been making payments. I assure you that this is something you not wanting to miss.
I think when it comes to who inspired me, I do think that it was my mom and my aunt, my grandma. They're just strong, powerful females who have made a huge impact on, raising other strong, powerful females in the world. And I think that was a huge inspiration. But honestly, there's just not a lot of people who are pros who were able to maybe give these girls here in the Midwest a platform. And so that's I had no one really to look up to when it came to professional basketball or professional sports here in the Midwest. And so I always just knew that I wanted to be that somebody. And so once I put my mind to something, I kind of do it. And so
now, if you have any knowledge of, you are aware that Sophie Cunningham doesn't. Don't hold back. She plays and expresses her opinions, wearing a sour attitude, and she's possessed the enforcer mindset that makes, depending on her, she either loved or loathed whatever team you support. But what she stated that it wasn't about Caitlin Clark. It wasn't criticism, it was trash talk. Something much more intriguing.
Shooters in our league, and you see that we don't really have any, there's some, but there's not a lot of traditional post players anymore. Like, everyone can shoot. And if you can't shoot, it's weird that you can't shoot. And so I think you see, Diana Taurasi, she was able to shoot that ball from far out. Now you have Caitlin Clark shooting logo threes. And I just think, that's Steph Curry type stuff. And if the females can show that, then I don't know if it's going to be as exciting as a dunk, but we're also not done. Like, we know that. But man,
prior to delving into the details of, let's set the situation based on Sophie's statement. Sophie recently joined the Indiana Fever, an already buzzing team, due to the fact that one of the most talked about basketball rookies, Caitlin Clark's history, and let's face it, attention has been focused on Caitlin recently, from setting records in the college to generating crazily high viewership. Women's basketball stats, she's previously a generational talent, even participating in one WNBA match. But what occurs when you introduce a player like as someone who has been working hard is Sophie, yearning for her in this league for years. A player who devoted her professional life to the Phoenix that created the iconic Diana Taurasi, being aware that while she wasn't going to receive the minutes she really desired with Sophie were patient, but let's not misunderstand her, was in need of some food, and now that she had the fever, she has a chance to prove it at last, just how troublesome she can be. So, Sophie's sitting position throughout this interview. Many people anticipated that she would speak regarding her experience moving to Indiana and what she would do next, which she did, but then came the section that garnered media attention. She was questioned concerning Caitlin Clark, and she didn't merely provide the typical fantastic gamer that I can't wait to play with. Sophie went all in when she said, no, discussed how she really made an effort. Caitlin Clark's recruitment to Phoenix. Imagine it for a moment before the draft. Here was Sophie Cunningham for a second, attempting to join Caitlin's squad, attempting to construct something hazardous in the desert, although that clearly didn't occur. Instead, Caitlin received the fever, and in a bizarre turn of events, so did. Now, Sophie, this is where things get It's noteworthy that Sophie didn't simply state she was delighted to play with Caitlyn. Said, "I took it a step further, and I said this to the people upstairs. If she's, I'll be her Sabrina Carpenter." Taylor Swift just paused there. That is an assertion for individuals who may not understand Sabrina Carpenter's reference. Has a close relationship with Taylor. Swift frequently serves as her opener during performances and being perceived as someone who gives flawless compliments. What Sophie thinks about Taylor's superstar presence is stating that she is aware that this is straightforward. The star of the major event is Caitlin Clark. Everyone's eyes will be on the star, and she actually doesn't mind at all. She's eager to play and is embracing it, eager to play the part of Caitlin Sharp, shooting a sidekick that has been battle-hardened, and that is what sparked the conversation. But let's face it, there are a lot of this league's players who would not feel at ease taking that type of supportive function. There are several veterans who may not find the concept appealing. A novice who receives all the attention. All of the headlines are captured by the camera, however. Sophie informs you that she's here for it. A great deal about her playing style. She doesn't have an inflated ego. Anxious about serving as the spokesperson for the franchise, all she wants is to succeed, and she thinks Caitlin Clark will assist. Sophie did that, but she continued. She continued by discussing what makes. Not only is Caitlin exceptional as a player, but she recognized the Mad as a person. Caitlin's level of pressure is the constantly highlight the standards that would demolish the majority of people. Yet, Sophie claims that Caitlin manages it. That's a huge compliment, delivered with grace. From a person who has witnessed the UPS, who has participated in the league's ups and downs, against and beside some of the greatest. Sophie wasn't the only one letting go of some banal compliments. This was her way of expressing. Caitlin Clark is known to be more than merely excited. She's ready and the real thing. To accompany her in combat, let's take a moment to consider what this indicates. That Indiana's Fever was currently appearing to be among the most fascinating teams going into this. However, Sophie Cunningham is in the shake things up even more intriguing, since if you've seen, you know exactly what Sophie is playing. Carries to the table her toughness, and she is physically fearless. And when she's an expert at three-point shooting. And that's where the fun begins. Since you are aware of who else is problematic, as you can see from deep Caitlin Clark, I'm just going with this Fever became one of the most hazardous. The league's three-point shooting teams. Caitlin is available for you to pull up from. Sophie can be found anywhere on the court, who possesses one of the most deadly catches, and in the game, shoot strokes, and let's not. Elia Boston in the paint is forgotten, kicking it out and demanding attention to shooters in the event that defense fails. This goes beyond Caitlin Clark alone. Is about the formation of a perfect storm in Caitlin and Indiana, let's be honest. Clark is accustomed to using the ball when playing. She's accustomed to handling the show, but the WNBA is a beast of its own. She will need to adjust and learn how to play with players that have participated in longer than her in this league, which is where Sophie Cunningham, for example, enters. The type of player she can make. She understands that Caitlin's transition went more smoothly, how to locate her whereabouts, and how to knock down shots on the floor when Caitlin gives her the ball, and the fact that they like each other is the finest part. Chemistry is important, but it's not only about. Trust is key when it comes to talent. When Caitlin swings the additional pass, she needs to be aware of that the player who is being received is not with Sophie. I'm going to empty that shot. That self-assurance already exists, therefore. Returning to the moment that went viral, Taylor's Sabrina Carpenter to Caitlin's. Some others mistook Swift's line for Sophie, performing a supporting role as though she's being in the background is acceptable, but this isn't what's taking place here. A player who is aware of roles is a player who is aware that championships aren't one by one superstar. Sophie isn't fit with teams that work well together. Attempting to surpass Caitlin Clark, she's interested about winning, and if this Fever team, if they play their cards correctly, they could just surprise many folks now. What's crazy is that we're just getting started. Even though the season hasn't begun yet, we're already observing how well this crew is working together. In the background, we're witnessing the honor, the potential, and the excitement. Imagine what they're saying today. What will occur when they begin? Teams of lights on the court. And to be clear, this is more than simply hype. Statistics support Sophie Cunningham's currently among the top shooters in the. Caitlin Clark is entering the league, regarded as one of the greatest. When a shooter combines that with a group that is designed to allow them to fly, man, defenses should prepare, and the reason Sophie Cunningham's pals comments are really crucial, but this is only the beginning of a great soundbite. Okay, let's delve into something major. Further into this bizarre circumstance and the WNBA's implications, because trust. I'm Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham. There are many more connections than just one viral remark. We're discussing a possible revolution in the league, and whether you believe that the Fever or you're just another rebuilding team, preparing to view things from a completely different viewpoint. So, let's start exactly where Sophie Cunningham was left off, and she is obviously not here to be the star. She is in a league where she is here to win. Chemistry and ego conflicts can create or destroy a squad. With that kind of attitude is Caitlin Clark, who is irreplaceable, is turning into one of the most prominent spotlights. Expectations in WNBA history are through. Everyone wants to view the roof to see if she can fulfill the expectations, if she is able to do the same to the pros as she did at college. But the problem is that no matter how skilled, a newbie can do it. Let's chat when Sophie Cunningham enters alone about the reasons this collaboration is so ideal. Since it may appear on paper that it's Caitlin Clark who brings everything, Indiana's firepower, but that's not. Sophie's whole tale isn't simply taking a role-playing game with them. She is essential to ensuring Caitlin achieves the greatest amount of success initially. Speaking of spacing, the WNBA is a beast is different from college. Basketball defenses are more intelligent. Physicality is increased and rotations are tighter. Caitlin isn't going to turn up 100. Possess the ability to simply waltz in and rule, at least the same manner she did at Iowa. Not without making some significant changes. Sophie enters the picture when you have several shooters on the ground. They must be respected by defenses. They cannot simply swarm Caitlin like a collegiate squad did, so that they could guess what that Sophie is being kicked out of the ball and that 3-in-1 team is being buried by her. Begin to reconsider leaving just a bit greater room for Caitlin to work, which is when she actually begins to cook. It's when you have the classic Steph Curry effect. The defenses of elite shooters are compelled to choose their poison and leave Sophie exposed. She will force you to pay too much. Caitlin now has space to work. It's a terrible situation for the defenders, and the Fever will take full advantage of. But let's look past the X's and O's, since one of the most important components. Success for a rookie requires more than just talent. Mentoring, and although Sophie isn't, she has been a vet for precisely 10 years. The WNBA grind that she has experienced, along with legends, she has gained knowledge from she understands what it takes to survive the best within this league, and she possesses the type of experience that is necessary for Caitlin to. Let's face it, Sophie isn't in the corner. She plays with a chip because she is scared of everyone. She carries that enforcer over her shoulder attitude, and with Caitlin taking over a league in which she has already having someone like Target on her back, it's significant that Sophie is on her team. Consider this. Caitlin Clark will arrive as the player with the most buzz in years. She's smashing attendance records, raising awareness of the WNBA than in the past, and you are aware of that. Indicates that defenders will put her to the test. She will receive some severe penalties. She will be chirped at because she's will have evenings when she's frustrated, but she now has Sophie in her corner, Cunningham, and do you realize Sophie isn't a good player? Unwilling to allow someone to push her teammate. Nearby, recall how Draymond Green always supported Steph Curry with the Sophie is a warrior, and she can. Devoted to Caitlin, who is the one who's bringing the energy and setting the tone, and ensure that no one disregards their squad. But this is where things really start to get intriguing, as Sophie didn't simply discuss Caitlin during that interview. She made some important remarks regarding the condition of the WNBA and the ways in which this new rookie, said it plain and simple. Class is a turning point, not merely hype. The WNBA has featured elite players for years. Ability, but it never quite managed to. Diana and other national spotlight players. Absolute Terracai, Sue Bird, Candace Parker. Legends, but they didn't have the enormous propaganda claiming Caitlin Clark is bringing at the moment, and Sophie's not. Despite her bitterness, she is accepting it. Criticized those who behave in such a way, as Caitlin is the first outstanding athlete in. According to women's basketball, the talent has always present, and she's correct. But what has changed is that people are now. It's a game changer to watch. Since Caitlin Clark Angel is now Reese and the other crazy rookies. Class, the WNBA has more viewers than previously, as well as players like Sophie. Cunningham is aware of what that implies. More chances, more funds, more. She even pointed out with respect that a few league members may feel in some manner regarding Caitlin receiving all of this focus, and let's be honest. Indeed, there are gamers who have been working hard for years in the WNBA, never receiving the same amount of publicity. And all of a sudden, this novice enters, and she is everywhere. Sophie, however, understands the wider picture. She is aware that there are more than one player you need to hoist the whole league, which is why she's thrilled to be. She does not view Caitlin as a part of this. She views her as a catalyst in the competition. And while you're thinking that way, on a team, that's when unique things occur. Let's discuss expectations now. Because after listening to Sophie's speech, it's the goal of the Clear This Fever team is not only they are here to make a statement, not to compete. Indiana is still viewed by some as a rebuilding crew, but let's face it, the story is over. They have a shooter in Caitlin Clark's generation. They have a strong online presence in Boston. Aaliyah, they have an skilled shooter with battle testing in. This group is more than just Sophie Cunningham. Young and lively, they pose a threat, and if you believe, they will only be a great way to showcase the actual team without actually winning games. You could be about to surprised. Sophie stated unequivocally that she's here to support Caitlin in realizing her full potential. Her purpose is to provide the ideal complement. When you put people in her game who truly wish to see each other together. When others succeed, you get something unique. But let's face it, won't be simple. Caitlin is going to experience growing pains. She will. Those evenings when she finds it difficult to. Fever is a relatively new team, and they're likely to suffer some setbacks along the route. However, Sophie was at her side with a group that has faith in what they're. This is going to be enjoyable building guy. What do you suppose will happen, Sophie? Caitlin Clark and Cunningham emerge as the NBA's most lethal shooting duo. Can Indiana puts up a fierce fight for the championship this year? Leave a comment in the. If you liked this, please leave a comment below. Collapse, remember to hit that like. For more WNBA content, click and subscribe. Hot takes, breaking news, and updates. We're discussing everything starting with Caitlin, the ascent of Clark to the playoff push. Thus, enable such post notifications. Won't want to miss the following step.